Welcome back to my channel State to State USA. Did you know that Colorado is the place in the world with the highest concentration of mountains rising over 4,000 meters in a single territory? Or that in the very heart of Colorado stand the tallest sand dunes in North America, crashing against snow-covered mountains as if two opposite worlds were colliding? And that along its cliffs survive stone cities built more than 700 years ago, literally clinging to vertical rock walls. Colorado is not just snow and skiing. It is frontier, it is history, and it is raw natural power. Get ready because today you'll discover 35 incredible facts about Colorado that will forever change the way you see the elevated heart of the United States. 35. The myth of the perfect rectangle. When you look at a map of the United States, Colorado appears to be a simple, clean rectangle, a perfect four-sided shape carved out of the American West. However, if you were to walk the perimeter with a high-precision surveying tool, you would discover that the state actually has 697 sides. This geographical quirk is the result of 19th century surveying errors. Back in the 1870s, surveyors were tasked with marking the border using nothing but compasses and transit tools while navigating incredibly difficult terrain. They frequently drifted off the intended lines of latitude and longitude. Instead of being perfectly straight, the border zigzags back and forth between hundreds of stone markers. Because these markers were legally accepted by the government, they became the official boundary, meaning the state is technically a hexaheptaheptagon. It is a wonderful reminder that, in the world of geography, human error often trumps geometric perfection. 34. The Battle of the High Peaks. Mount Elbert holds the prestigious title of being the highest point in Colorado in the entire Rocky Mountain range, standing at 14,440 GOF. However, its neighbor, Mount Massive, is only 12 ft shorter. This tiny difference sparked a hilarious geographical rivalry during the Great Depression. Fans of Mount Massive felt their mountain was more impressive because of its massive bulk and multiple summits. So, they began hauling large rocks to the top of Mount Massive to build a giant cairn. Their goal was to artificially raise the height of the mountain so it would surpass Mount Elbert and claim the title of the tallest peak. Not to be outdone, supporters of Mount Elbert would periodically hike up and tear the cairn down. Eventually, the authorities stepped in to maintain the official natural elevations, but it remains a testament to how much people care about a few feet of rock. 33. The wandering point of the Four Corners. The Four Corners Monument is famous for being the only place in the United States where four states meet at a single point: Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. You might have seen photos of people placing a limb in each state, but geographically speaking, the monument is technically in the wrong place. The original survey intended for the intersection to be at precisely 37 north latitude and 193 minutes west longitude. Modern satellite technology shows that the actual monument is located about 1/800 ft east of where it was originally supposed to be. While some might call this a mistake, the legal world views it differently because the four states agreed to the location of the physical marker over a century ago. The monument itself defines the legal boundary, even if the math was slightly off back in 1875. 32. The Great Divide that splits the sky. The Continental Divide is perhaps the most significant geographical feature in the state, acting as a massive spine that dictates where every drop of water flows. In Colorado, this divide runs for roughly 470 miles along the crest of the Rocky Mountains. If you were to stand on the ridge and pour a canteen of water, half might eventually reach the Atlantic Ocean via the Gulf of Mexico, while the other half would head toward the Pacific Ocean. This high-altitude boundary creates vastly different climates on either side. The western slope is generally wetter and more rugged, catching the moisture-heavy clouds from the Pacific, while the eastern slope is drier and eventually transitions into the Great Plains. It is an invisible line that manages to define the ecology, the weather, and even the water rights of the entire western half of the continent. 31. Living on the highest ground. When we talk about Colorado being high, we are not just talking about the peaks. the state holds the record for the highest mean elevation in the United States, sitting at an average of 6,800 ft above sea level. To put that in perspective, the average elevation of the entire country is only about 2,500 ft. This means that even the flat parts of the state are significantly higher than the mountaintops in many other regions. Living at this average height has real geographical consequences, such as lower boiling points for water and a much thinner atmosphere that allows more ultraviolet radiation to reach the ground. It is a state where the lands would be considered highlands anywhere else, making the entire geography a literal platform in the sky that towers over its neighbors. Before continuing, be sure to subscribe to my channel and leave a like to keep discovering the strange and incredible geography of our entire country. 30. The desert hidden in the mountains, nestled at the base of the Sangra Dristo Mountains, lies one of the most unexpected geographical features in the world, the Great Sand Dunes. These are the tallest sand dunes in North America, with some reaching heights of 750 bpaleft. It seems impossible to find a massive desert field in the middle of a high-altitude alpine valley, but it is all thanks to a unique wind trap. For thousands of years, winds have blown sand across the St. Louis Valley only to be stopped by the towering mountain range. The sand piles up at the base, creating a surreal landscape of shifting peaks. Even more fascinating is Medano Creek, which flows across the sand, creating surge waves like a miniature ocean beach in the middle of a landlocked mountain state. It is a perfect example of how complex geological forces can create a desert in the clouds. 29. The massive flat world of Grand Mesa. While most of Colorado is famous for its jagged peaks, the western part of the state features the Grand Mesa, which is the largest flat-top mountain in the entire world. This geological giant covers about 500 square miles and rises to an elevation of around 11,000 ft. It is essentially a massive island in the sky, capped by a thick layer of volcanic basalt that resisted the erosion that carved away the surrounding valleys. Because it is so flat and high, it acts like a giant sponge, holding over 300 high alpine lakes and supporting lush forests that are completely different from the desert-like terrain at its base. Standing on the edge of the mesa feels like looking off the rim of the world, offering a geographical contrast that is rare to find on such a massive scale anywhere else on Earth. 28. The humble birth of the Rio Grande. Most people associate the Rio Grande with the dusty border between Texas and Mexico, but this legendary river actually begins its long journey high in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado. The headwaters are found in the Rio Grande National Forest, where tiny snowmelt streams converge to form a river that will eventually travel nearly 1,100 miles known. The geography of the upper Rio Grande is stunning as it flows through the wide San Luis Valley before cutting deep canyons into the volcanic rock. It is a fascinating geographical fact that the water used to irrigate crops in the heat of southern Texas likely started as a snowflake on a cold Colorado peak. This connection highlights how the high-altitude geography of the Rockies serves as the primary water tower for a massive portion of the North American continent. 27. The High Club of 58 Peaks. In the world of mountaineering, a 14er is a mountain that rises at least 14,000 ft above sea level. While many states have a few high peaks, Colorado is the undisputed king of this category, boasting 58 of them. This is the highest concentration of such tall peaks in the contiguous United States. These mountains are not just scattered randomly, they are grouped into distinct ranges like the Sawatch, the Cerrito, and the San Juan, each with its own unique geological personality. The sheer number of these peaks defines the state's rugged interior and creates a high-altitude playground that dictates local weather patterns. Because so much of the state's landmass is pushed up into the sky, it creates an alpine environment that supports rare plants and animals that cannot survive anywhere else in the surrounding regions. 26. A bridge across the chasm. The Royal Gorge is a narrow, deep canyon carved by the Arkansas River, and it is home to one of the most impressive feats of geographical engineering. The Royal Gorge Bridge spans the canyon at a dizzying height of 956 feet above the river. For decades, it held the title of the highest bridge in the world. and it remains the highest suspension bridge in the United States. The gorge itself is a vertical slit in the earth, barely 50 ft wide at the bottom in some places, with granite walls that rise straight up for over 1,000 ft. This geographical feature was so narrow and steep that it was the site of the Royal Gorge War between competing railroads in the late 19th century, as there was only enough room for one set of tracks at the bottom of the chasm. 25. The road to the clouds. If you want to experience the highest point reachable by a car in North America, you have to visit Mount Blue Sky, which was formerly known as Mount Evans. The Mount Blue Sky Scenic Byway is the highest paved road on the continent, climbing all the way to an incredible 1,430 ft. The geography of this road is mind-blowing. It transitions from thick evergreen forests to twisted bristle cone pines, and finally into a barren rocky tundra where the oxygen levels are significantly lower. At the summit, the environment is so extreme that it resembles the Arctic Circle more than the temperate United States. The road was a marvel of engineering when it was built, designed to allow people to experience the extreme geography of a high peak without needing to be professional climbers, providing a literal window into the alpine world. 24. The sky blue treasure of Mount Antro. Mount Anto is a towering peak in the Sawatch Range that hides a shimmering geographical secret. It is the highest known gem locality in the United States, famous for producing world-class aquamarine crystals. Unlike most mines located in valleys or low hills, the aquamarine on Mount Antaro is found in pockets of granite at elevations exceeding 13,000 ft, well above the timberline. The geography of the mountain is extremely rugged, with steep talus slopes and a very short window of time each year when the snow melts enough to allow for prospecting. These crystals are formed in myrolitic cavities, which are essentially gas bubbles that formed in the cooling magma millions of years ago. The fact that such delicate sky blue gems are tucked away in the harshest, highest reaches of the Rockies is one of the most beautiful intersections of minology and geography. 23. The great river that lost its name. For a long time, the mighty Colorado River did not actually begin in Colorado, at least not according to the official maps of the 19th century. The stretch of the river that flowed through the mountains was originally named the Grand River. This created a strange geographical situation where the Colorado River technically started at the confluence of the Grand and Green Rivers in Utah. This did not sit well with the residents of the Centennial State, who felt that the river bearing the state's name should naturally originate within its borders. In 1921, a local representative named Edward Taylor successfully lobbied the United States Congress to rename the Grand River. This was not just a matter of pride. It was a clever legal move to ensure the state had a stronger claim to the water rights of the entire basin. Today, the headwaters are officially recognized as starting in the clouds of the Never. Summer mountains, but the old name still lingers in places like Grand County and the city of Grand Junction. 22. The massive liquid heart of the Rockies. While the state is known for its cold snow, it also contains some of the most impressive geothermal features on the planet. In the town of Glenwood Springs, one can find the largest mineral hot springs pool in the entire world. This is not just a small soaking tub. The primary pool is larger than 2 city blocks and contains over 1 million gallons of naturally heated water. The geography of this area is fascinating because the water is heated by a deep geothermal heat source and rises through a series of cracks in the Earth's crust, picking up 15 different minerals along the way. The pressure is so great that the water emerges at a temperature of about 122 degrees Fahrenheit before being cooled for the public. It serves as a reminder that beneath the snowy peaks, there is a literal boiling engine of geological activity that has been flowing for thousands of years, creating a massive natural spa in the middle of a mountain canyon. 21. The Dinosaur Highway of the Front Range. Just west of the city of Denver lies a geological formation so rich in prehistoric history that it is often referred to as a dinosaur highway. This area, known as Dinosaur Ridge, features hundreds of fossilized footprints and bones embedded in the rock layers of the Morrison Formation. Walking along this ridge is like walking through a vertical book of time. One can see the ripple marks of an ancient inland sea and the massive tracks of iguanodons and stegosauruses frozen in stone. It is one of the few places on Earth where a traveler can stand on a suburban hillside and look directly into a world that existed 150 million years ago. 20. The painted labyrinth of the Eastern Plains. Many people think the geography of eastern Colorado is nothing but flat yellow grasslands, but the Paint Mines Interpretive Park proves that theory entirely wrong. Tucked away in El Paso County, this hidden gem features a series of fantastical hoods and spires made of brightly colored clay. It is a vibrant reminder that the plains hold secrets just as colorful and complex as the mountains that tower over them to the west. 19. The Great Tectonic Rift of the San Luis Valley. The St. Louis Valley is not just a typical mountain valley. It is actually part of the Rio Grande Rift, one of the few places on Earth where the continental crust is actively being pulled apart. In some places, the bedrock is buried under 3 meters of sand, gravel, and volcanic ash. This unique structure creates a massive underground aquifer that provides water to one of the most productive agricultural regions in the high desert. Standing in the middle of the valley, one is essentially standing on a giant sinking block of the Earth's crust, surrounded by 2 of the most dramatic mountain ranges in the country, the Cerritos and the San Juans. 18. The suspended beauty of Hanging Lake. High on the cliffs of Glenwood Canyon sits a geographical wonder that seems to defy the laws of nature. Hanging Lake is a rare example of a travertine deposition lake formed by a geological process where dissolved carbonates are deposited on the edges of the shore. The lake is suspended over the floor of the canyon fed by Bridal Veil Falls, which tumbles down from the cliffs above. This creates a lush green hanging garden that feels completely disconnected from the rugged rocky canyon below. It is a masterpiece of mineral chemistry and hydrology, proving that geography can be just as delicate as it is massive. 17. The ancient redwoods of the high plateau. If you were to travel back 34 million years, the geography of central Colorado would have looked more like the foggy forests of Northern California. The Florent Fossil Beds National Monument preserves the remains of a prehistoric world that was buried in an instant by volcanic mud flows. Today, these massive stone stumps sit at an elevation of over 8,000 ft, a place where it is far too cold and dry for redwoods to grow. It is a profound geographical lesson in how much the climate and the landscape can change over geological time, turning a tropical forest into a high-altitude mountain meadow. 16. The vertical shadows of the Black Canyon. The Black Canyon of the Gunnison is perhaps the most intimidating geographical feature in the state. The walls are made of Precambrian basement rock, some of the oldest and hardest stone on the planet, which allowed the Gunnison River to carve a narrow vertical slit rather than a wide valley. The painted wall within the canyon is the highest cliff in the state, rising 2,250 ft straight up from the water. It is a place of shadows and echoes, where the geography feels condensed and powerful, showcasing the raw force of water against ancient stone. 15. The stubborn plateau that diverted a river. The Uncompahgre Plateau is a massive tilted block of the Earth's crust in western Colorado that tells a fascinating story of geographical persistence. Millions of years ago, the Colorado and Gunnison rivers flowed through this area, but as the plateau began to rise, it forced the rivers to change their courses. However, there is one spot called Unaweep Canyon that remains a geographical enigma. It is a massive canyon that cuts all the way across the plateau, but it has no major river flowing through it today. Instead, it has 2 creeks that flow out of opposite ends of the canyon. This wind gap is a relic of a time when a massive river once sliced through the rock. The plateau itself acts as a giant barrier, affecting local weather and creating a high-altitude island of forests. Surrounded by red rock deserts, it is a landscape defined by what is no longer there as much as what is. 14. The radiating spines of the Spanish Peaks. In the southern part of the state, 2 isolated mountains known as the Spanish Peaks rise abruptly from the plains. While the peaks themselves are impressive, the most unique geographical feature of this area is the collection of dikes that radiate outward from the mountains like the spokes of a giant wheel. These dikes are long vertical walls of igneous rock that were formed when molten magma was forced into cracks in the surrounding sedimentary layers. Over millions of years, the softer surrounding rock eroded away, leaving behind hundreds of perfectly straight stone walls that can be over 100 ft high and miles long. From the air, it looks like a giant topographical sunburst. This type of radiating swarm is rare on such a large scale, making the geography of the Spanish Peaks a world-renowned sight for geologists and a stunning visual anomaly for anyone traveling through the region. 13. The ghostly formations of the Wheeler area. Deep in the Logarita wilderness lies the Wheeler geological area, a place so remote and rugged that it feels like a secret hidden by the mountains. The geography here is defined by volcanic tuff, which is compressed ash from a massive eruption that occurred millions of years ago. The stark white-gray formations standing against the dark green forest create a visual contrast that is unlike anything else in the Rockies, serving as a monument to the explosive volcanic history that helped build the state. 12. The highest city on the continent. When it comes to high-altitude living, no place in North America does it quite like Leadville. Sitting at an elevation of 10,152 ft, it is the highest incorporated city on the continent. The geography of Leadville is defined by its position in a high alpine valley between the two highest ranges in the state, the Sawatch and the Mosquito. Originally a booming silver mining camp, the town was built in a location that most people would find uninhabitable. Yet, it thrived. It remains a testament to human resilience in the face of extreme geography, a place where the clouds are often lower than the rooftops. 11. The creeping giant of Slongolian. Near the town of Lake City, there is a geographical phenomenon that looks like a slow-motion river made of earth and rock. This is the Slumgullian earth flow, a massive landslide that began moving about 700 years ago. It was caused by the weathering of volcanic rocks into slippery yellow clay, which eventually gave way and began sliding down the mountain. The original flow was so large that it blocked the lake fork of the Gunnison River, creating the beautiful Lake Srstol. Today, the upper part of the slide still moves at a rate of about 20 ft per year. You can actually see the trees on the slide tilted at odd angles, a phenomenon known as drunken trees, as they struggle to maintain their balance on a landscape that is constantly shifting beneath them. Remember to subscribe to my channel and like to keep learning amazing information about each state in our beautiful country. 10. The paradox of the cross-cutting river. In the western reaches of the state lies the Paradox Valley, a place where geography seems to have forgotten the rules of gravity and logic. In a typical valley, a river flows down the middle, following the path of least resistance from one end to the other. However, the Dolores River does something entirely different. It flows perpendicular to the valley, cutting directly across the middle of it from one side to the other. This geographical oddity occurred because the river was already established in its course long before the valley itself was formed. The town of Creek sits inside one of the most productive geographical features in human history, the throat of an ancient collapsed volcano. About 30 million years ago, a massive volcanic complex erupted here, creating a labyrinth of cracks and fissures in the Earth's crust. As the volcano cooled, hot mineral-rich fluids rose through these cracks, depositing an incredible amount of gold. What makes this geography unique is that the gold is not found in a wide area, but is concentrated within a 6-square-mile volcanic crater. Mesa Verde is world-famous for its cliff dwellings, but the geography that allowed those structures to exist is even more fascinating. Despite its name, Mesa Verde is not technically a mesa. It is a Qua-6, the fragile kingdom of the alpine tundra. Above 11,000 ft, the geography of Colorado undergoes a radical transformation into a world where trees cannot grow. This is the alpine tundra, a high-altitude ecosystem that covers about 3% of the state. This environment is geographically identical to the Arctic Circle, even though it sits at the same latitude as the Mediterranean. This rock was formed from the silt and sand of ancient mountain ranges that eroded away 300 million years ago. One of the most dramatic geographical boundaries in the world is the meeting point between the Great Plains and the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains. In many mountain ranges, the elevation increases gradually over hundreds of miles. But in Colorado, the mountains rise abruptly from the flat Earth. This is due to a massive fault line where the Earth's crust was buckled and pushed upward during the Laramide Aroini. This creates a rain shadow effect that dominates the state's geography. As moisture-laden air hits this sudden wall
of rock, it is forced upward where it cools and drops its water as snow on the peaks. By the time the air reaches the plains on the other side, it is dry and warm. This geographical feature is a silent witness to a time when the entire center of North America was covered by a vast inland sea called the Western Interior Seaway. This ocean stretched from the Gulf of Mexico to the Arctic Ocean, and Colorado was right at the bottom of it. The Pierre Shale is composed of the fine mud and organic matter that settled on the seafloor over millions of years. Today, the shale layer is thousands of feet thick and acts as a massive seal that traps natural gas and oil deep underground. It also makes the geography of the region tricky for builders, as the clay in the shale expands and contracts with moisture, often cracking the foundations of buildings and shifting the very roads that cross the plains. 2. The rushing stairs of the Arkansas River. This rapid drop creates a series of
world-class rapids and deep canyons as the water uses its immense kinetic energy to slice through the solid rock of the mountains. The most important geographical fact about Colorado is its role as the mother of rivers. Because of its high elevation and massive snowpack, the state acts as a giant fountainhead that provides water to 18 different states and even parts of Mexico. The geography of the state's peaks literally dictates the survival and economy of the entire western half of the continent. After learning these 35 facts about Colorado, tell us which one did you like the most, or which one surprised you the most. Leave it in the comments. Let's see how many of us picked the same fact. And if you think we missed something or want to add your own fun fact, we'd love to hear from you. Your comments help us make every video even better. Also, if you noticed any pronunciation slips here and there, thank you for your patience. We're working hard to get better with every video. And speaking of videos, there's another one on screen right now so you can keep exploring the geography of our beautiful country. But before you go, don't forget to subscribe State to State USA and give it a like so we can keep learning together. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.